Discussion, Facts, Storytelling and Understanding by Nishia Ito. Made with Notebook LM. The technology discussed in this video, solid light, is purely speculative and based on a possible future innovation. It is not currently achievable with today's technology. This presentation explores its conceptual design, purpose, and potential use cases without claiming feasibility or offering development guidance.
Okay, so what if you could reach out and just grab a piece of the digital world? I mean, not just see it on a screen, but actually feel it in your hand. Today, we're going to explore a concept that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but could make that a reality: solid light. I mean, really think about that for a second. What if all the digital images we see every day weren't just illusions? What if they actually had substance, maybe even weight or texture? We're talking about a world where an architect could physically hold their own blueprint, feeling the layout before a single brick is even laid. Or, get this, an engineer could assemble a jet engine piece by piece with their bare hands, all while it's just a hologram. That right there is the promise of solid light. So the big question is, how do you even get from a simple hologram to something you can actually touch? Now, just a quick note before we dive in. For this explainer, we're going to set aside the question of if this is possible right now. Instead, we're just going to dive into the what if that the source material lays out for us. And to do that, we've got to start with a really clear definition, because the key here is understanding what makes this technology so radically different from the holograms we're all used to seeing in movies. So here's the bottom line. Solid light isn't just a visual trick. It's a projection you can physically interact with, something that actually pushes back, that responds when you touch it. And that is the absolute game changer. Yeah, this really puts the difference in perspective, right? A standard hologram is just for looking. You know, your hand would just phase right through it. But solid light is both visual and tactile. It's the difference between seeing a picture of an apple and actually holding one in your hand. Okay, so how is any of this even possible? Well, according to the source material, this incredible power doesn't come from some giant room-sized machine. Nope, it comes from something surprisingly small. Get this, it all starts right here. A small sphere, something you could literally hold in the palm of your hand, is the entire engine for this tech. All that so-called magic we're talking about, it's all happening inside this one little device. So, inside that little sphere, there's this really cool four-step process going on. First, you've got projection and rendering. That's just creating the image and putting it in space. But then comes the part that's just mind-blowing. Solidification. A physical layer is literally formed over the light itself. From there, it's all about interaction. That new surface has to sense your touch and then send that feedback to be processed. That's what creates the illusion of a real solid object. So what's actually doing all the heavy lifting in there? Well, it all comes down to two specialized chips. And you can think of them like a creative team, right? Each one has a totally different but super important job. I love this analogy. It makes so much sense. Chip number one is the artist. It's in charge of the visuals. It renders the image, controls its position, manages how it moves. But chip number two is the sculptor. It takes the artist's creation of pure light and boom, makes it solid, makes it touchable. One creates the vision, the other makes it real. Okay, this is where it gets pretty wild. How in the world does this sculptor chip build something real out of pure light? The source says it's this crazy dance of physics. It supposedly uses gravity to control molecular-level particles, arranging them into a layer over the light. Then it coats these particles with a kind of invisible electricity, which turns the entire surface into one giant touch sensor. So what you're left with is basically a temporary physical object built out of almost nothing, right there in front of your eyes.
All right, so we've covered the what and the how, but what about the why? I mean, what would we actually do with tech like this? Just the professional applications alone are pretty staggering to think about.
I mean, just let your imagination run with this for a second. Product designers could hold and feel a prototype just hours after designing it. Engineers could assemble a complex machine part by part, and not a single real component would be at risk. It's basically a whole new hands-on toolbox for pretty much any technical or creative field you can think of.
And get this wouldn't have to be stuck in some high-tech lab. The idea is that you could have your own personal sphere, or you could connect to public consoles, kind of like a cell network, but for physical data. So your work, your designs, your models, they could literally pop into existence wherever you happen to be.
But, you know, as cool as all those professional tools are, they're really just the start. The source material points to one application that it considers the most profound, what it considers the ultimate use for solid light.
And this quote really says it all. The ultimate goal isn't just about making physical things we can touch. It's about giving a physical presence to the digital minds we're already talking to every single day. Think about how that would totally change our relationship with AI. It's no longer just a voice coming out of a speaker. Imagine a mentor you can actually look in the eye, a guide who can physically walk beside you and point out details in the real world, a real presence you could connect with. With something as simple as a handshake. Wow.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that first question we asked. We've explored the what, the how, and the why of solid light. So the question is, for you now, if that line between the digital and the physical just vanished, what's the very first thing you'd want to reach out and touch?